And we are live. 6:00.
Today is Monday, September 16th, and this is a Student Services Committee meeting. The meeting is called to order at 6:01 p.m. This is a School District of Menominee Falls Board of Education Student Services Committee meeting. There is a possibility that a quorum of the full membership of the Board of Education may be in attendance at the board committee meetings. There will be no full board action taken at any board committee meeting. Only members of the committee may vote on any item on the agenda. A live broadcast will be streamed on the school district's YouTube page. To watch the recorded meeting, please visit our SDMF YouTube site. We are located at the Village Hall Upper Level Conference Room 3344, 3345, W156 and 8480 Pilgrim Road. Is the meeting properly posted?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We do need minutes approval. I need a motion to approve the student services meeting minutes. I know that we need to look at the July 25th minutes approval.
I'll make a motion.
I will second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye. And opposed? Okay, minutes are passed, and I also need a motion to approve the minutes from the August 19th committee meeting.
I'll motion.
Also second.
All those in favor, aye? Aye. All those opposed, motion is passed. Okay, looking at the agenda, the first item of discussion is the oak boxes. And I know that this is kind of the first time that we're looking at a review. Any feedback from staff, students, community?
Nothing so far, but they are worked on for the installation. And I did talk to the Waukesha County and they said there is no issue with them being cold or outside.
Okay.
We're gonna have one by the main office, and I'd worked with Christina Taylor at the high school. One near the main office, one near the gymnasium, and then they're really trying to figure out and narrow down where they wanna put it out by the football stadium. So there's gonna be an outdoor actual box, so it's not gonna be contained in anything. I don't have to worry about them having to get into the fencing or any of that stuff to get at it, so
Okay,
that's where the three of them are gonna end up. When I spoke with the person from the county too, they also said that she lives in town. I think I might have mentioned this at one of the meetings. So she's able to restock those, should we need anything for it, she'll be able to drop it off on the way home. So it works out pretty good from a convenience standpoint.
okay. And then I'm assuming that all the contents for each one will be the same.
Uniform based upon what they've been installing in other places.
Okay, and then just to reiterate, this is no cost, it is fully funded by the county.
Yep.
And so no cost to the district.
And based on what they're saying, it sounds like it's gonna be funded for the next 25 years for all of them. So they've allocated that so far in advance in preparation for this, so
Okay,
pretty good.
Good.
Ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure.
yeah. Have we, and remind me if we talked about this, talked about like education around them, what the plan is there?
Yeah, not yet, but
Okay.
we're going, and when we do get to that point, the intention would be to go through what their process has been at other schools, cause they actually have a set, it's not really a curriculum, but they've got a program that they use to just kind of slowly get that word out to people that, hey, we've got these available.
Right,
And these are only gonna be at the high school, right?
Yeah, for now, yep, we're piloting them at the high school, and we really wanna get kind of a gist of how it's gonna work out, if there's any issues that come from it, and work out any of the kinks that might be in there, and then from there, we might talk about moving to other schools, probably anticipating being downtown with the middle school would be a good option to help out with the community.
okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll see how the piloting goes at the high school and
You said we're doing 3?
Did you have a time frame for the installation?
They had started it, when we had talked last week, they had already started like getting the prep work done, so I'm guessing it's gonna be within the next week or so.
Oh, okay,
I would think it's gonna be pretty quick, it's a matter of getting masonry screws in,
sure,
hanging them up.
okay.
Awesome.
I know Christina was working on that.
wonderful.
Any other discussion on the boxes? Okay. Second second item is attendance.
So we had mentioned this at the last meeting, we got the pilot processes being implemented at the high school and the middle school, as far as people and parents being able to do it through the Power School portal. So that's working really well. They've actually been encouraging, we've heard from a couple of people that they're being asked to please use that system because it makes it a lot more efficient and easy for the parents and families as well. So that part is going extremely well. The school messenger at all levels, so at the elementary school is also in place and that's functioning good. I've heard 0 complaints about that and the phone calls going out for tardies and unexcused absences at the elementary school, so that too is working very well. So 2 real nice pilots that started off. Now, as we start looking at these at the middle school and the high school, we'd like to implement that second semester for the elementary schools so that families can also start plugging their attendance in for the kids that way too, so. It should be a pretty smooth transition because that Power School plugin is working very well.
Is Power School on the app or is it just on the desktop?
Just on the computer, yep, just on the portal. Yeah, you can't do it on the app, that was one thing, you can't input things on Power School. I brought that up to Power School too. You can't input things on there.
That'd be real handy.
Uh-huh.
So take us through a morning of, okay, your kid is sick, what does the mom or the dad do?
So normally what happens is if I'm a parent, I go on my computer, the kid's sick, I know they're gonna be sick, maybe it's even the night before. I'll go on the computer on the Power School portal and I can plug in the attendance, and what they'll actually say is just excused, I'm excusing my student for this amount of time or the day. And then that'll be that. At the school level, then they'll be able to go through on Power School and actually check through the attendance for all the people that are excused or unexcused, and that'll be tied into what that plugin does for them, which is nice. Because if all of a sudden I've got 75 kids that are out, let's say at the high school, 75 kids are out, but 40 of them are already accounted for, I really only need to focus on those 35 that are excused.
Right.
So it cuts down on the amount of time that I have to do with calling and checking on them too.
So then the attendance, the teacher in the classroom, they see that on their computer that Joe Schmo is already excused and well, I don't need to worry about him or whatever.
They still mark them absent, just because they're not in the classroom, or if they're present, obviously, they can mark them that way too.
Okay.
But the other neat part is how it ties in with that messenger service. So if all of a sudden by a certain time frame at the elementary school, let's say, and they've got and well, let's go back to the middle school, because we haven't piloted at the elementary. What we're planning on doing is at the elementary school. If someone shows up late and gets it unverified, say at 10:30 or something, then that messenger service will automatically send that phone call out, and then it gives the time for the parent to call in and let them know, hey, by the way, your kid was marked unexcused, we need to clean this attendance piece out. So it's meant to work in combination with the other plugin too, the messenger plugin, which is why I think it's working so good at the high school and middle school, because it actually ties in when they're absent, and then it'll notify the parent right away, hey, you gotta call in, your kid's unverified. It's pretty slick.
What are we doing to promote this to families? Has it gone out, like what communications has it been?
Yep, so we added it to the bulletin, and then we actually did a separate communication out on the process and with directions and instructions. And we put the instructions online too on the webpage. So there's a lot of different ways people can learn how to do it. The really nice part is it's simple, it's real straightforward and direct. We had people using it even before school started, when we first opened it, to plug in vacations for spring break and things like that, where they knew in advance that the kids were gonna be out. Deer hunting was another one that we saw a lot of people plug it in for.
Sure.
So they're already knowing they're gonna be gone, so they can use this to plug it in, and then they don't have to worry about it closer to that date.
I might suggest that with some parents might have had information overload at the beginning of the school year.
Makes sense now.
Might it be like even through social media where if you click on it, it links you right to the website, so you get access to the information on how to do it. And that might be nice to reinforce it.
And we're gonna do the October survey too,
Perfect.
just to test and see how, what people think, if there's any other input they could give on making it any better. If Power School allows them to plug in fine tuning.
Sweet.
I would think usage of the cell phone would be probably the most important on parents' minds at this time.
Like for the Power School app?
Yeah.
I know, that was one of the things, I was like, if it was a way to do that,
Yes.
it would be so much easier, and they're like, we haven't built that in yet. They don't have any way for input to come in through the
Really?
app.
They had a true product manager on there.
It's kinda like us with our conversation with the Raptor lately.
Right.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad to see that people are using it and that the feedback has been positive and that the numbers are improving, because that's the ultimate goal, is to have that information that we're getting to be more accurate and
Timely and
Yep.
efficient.
mhm.
And that investment we put in for that plugin is definitely worth it, that's for darn sure.
Good. Yeah, and I know that there was concerns about phone calls and things like that, but if the automated system has been embraced and it's working well, then
Doing what it's supposed to.
even better.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a freebie, cause that was already in our system.
Any other discussion on attendance? Okay. Safety and, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong agenda. Safety and security.
Yep, safety and security, so we've gone through, David and I have been at every building, we did the training. For not just run, hide, fight training, but all the updates and all the different improvements that we've made to the safety drills and really just the alert process in general with common announcements. The systematic format for fire and inclement weather is in place, and then our flip charts as well. Go bags, we're actually gonna be doing, our last place to visit right now is CE and Rec. We're gonna be going on September 24th. We're gonna do the safety presentation there, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about go bags for those rooms at the rec center. Right now, they're in all the classrooms. We've got flip charts. The only place that we're missing right now, and I found out about this last week, was we're missing our lower levels, 4K. So we're gonna extend those. We actually went through all of our flip charts, which surprised the heck out of me, because that means we went through more of them than what we actually had rooms for.
Wow.
Which means people are finding different places. We're like, hey, this will work here, this will work here. So we had to order and submit another order for 50 more of those books. So luckily they had it at our printing company here in town still. They didn't get rid of our file. So we ended up getting a good deal on running 50 extra ones too, so that was really good. The trainings have gone very well. You know, it's not an easy topic to have and digest at the beginning of the school year when everybody's so positive and excited and upbeat. But I think our staff is they understand that it's the reality of what we live in, especially with the modern day and the news that we've been seeing. So I think that there is a good focus right now on it and making sure that we're doing what we need to do to make sure everybody's safe. But I think they also realize that there's a lot of things that we're gonna need to do differently from a drilling standpoint too for practice. And the big phrase that we say over and over during this training is muscle memory. Because no matter what, we respond in a situation as good as we are right now, not how we want it to be. In an emergency, you never know how you're gonna respond, no matter how many times you've been in it. And the intent is the more we practice, the more likely we are to respond in the way we want because of muscle memory. No guarantees, but at least by practicing over and over, that's gonna help us be a little better prepared.
Mhm.
So I think the trainings have gone a long way, but we still have a long way to go to get even better.
Okay.
And those stickers have been installed?
Yep.
Was that a
and that was-
chatter?
So a lot of chatter went around and got to see some of them that were installed at the high school, and then we ended up by bringing another 40 or 50 over there because some of them weren't sticking the way they wanted to. And then I saw some very unique positions that they put them on the door handles, which they work. They're ugly as sin, but that's, I'm not an interior decorator. So they work and they're functioning and they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're having people talk about it. The kids, when we were over there putting some in the gym, were talking about it, and that's what you want, that's the whole purpose of it. So
Mhm.
it's definitely gotten attention, that's for sure.
Yeah, I could not attend open house at the high school this past week. But I was hoping that if people were wandering around, even people were seeing them and chatting.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about the go bags?
sure. So in the go bags, there's certain items that help prepare for emergency, if you have to go and get out of the classroom. So there's things in there for diabetics, to help treat diabetics, there's water, there's a little bit of emergency preparedness, flashlights, there's some glow sticks for breaking glow sticks. And there's other things in there that are more to use for defending yourself, also for if you need to escape, if you gotta break a window or something like that. So every single classroom's got these in them. I know the high school also has a crank light instead of a battery operated flashlight, which was kind of a neat addition, but it's a little bigger than most of the other stuff I have today, so. Price wise, when we first anticipated doing this, we were looking probably about $10,000 or $12,000. We outfitted the entire district for, I wanna say like $46,000 or $4,700, so it worked pretty well. Yeah,
And who is in charge of the go bag? The teacher?
yep, teacher in the room,
And they all know what to do with it?
Yep. that's part of the training.
That's the
They've
training.
been trained?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, I saw a line on our vouchers for vitamin C.
Yep, that was a question that came up to me too, was why do we need $7,000 worth of vitamin C?
Oh, it was, I think it was more than that.
No, I'm like, that wasn't $7,000, I'm like, I thought we had 500. So Isabella and I were talking about it, I'm like $7,000, we just spent $7,000 for the whole thing,
Yeah,
so we just like.
so they had to make an adjustment to the voucher.
Yeah.
Okay, alright. I think it was,
I mean, we're gonna have a healthy student body this
Yeah.
year.
I know, I saw that too, I
We're
was
getting
like,
rid of the already
I think it
for
was
season.
13,000.
it was an
Yeah.
astronomical amount, and I was
Yeah.
like, and that's why I said, with, where's this going, the go bags
Yeah.
and
Right.
the boxes, like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
So
And I thought
we-
this was,
The vitamin
the
C we
boxes were
had,
funded.
I'd
Okay,
say either 500, I think we had 500 of the packages, and the only way we could get them was in like the containers.
Okay.
And then the fruit snacks were another one that we just got through food services, and the water we got through food services.
and that's more for the diabetic,
Yeah, just for response,
Okay.
start going into, if you're, say we're in an
Sure.
evacuation standpoint, and all of a sudden the kid starts going into diabetic shock
Yeah.
or something, we wanna make sure we're.
a quick, easy
I was gonna
way.
say,
Condition
when
real quick.
Mount Horeb had their lock-in, they put kids on hold in classrooms at like 11, and some did not get released until like 7 or 8 o'clock at
Yeah.
night. And so I would assume that having access to that stuff in a go bag makes that transition much easier when everybody's in lockdown.
Absolutely.
And we actually, and there's also a first aid kit, a small first aid kit for small bleeds. One of the conversations we talked about and trying to work with Freighter, with nursing staff, is getting stuff to bleed kits in the go bags for our emergency response teams. So it won't be for everybody, just because they're expensive, but ultimately getting tourniquet kits and the stop to bleed kits for those crisis team members would be another one we wanna add to it too. And there's grants out there for it, I know a nurse has got real nice grants, last year for stuff like that, so. That'll be something we wanna add. I'd really like to look into, and Sarah and I talked about this, is trying to get AED kits for the offices. And seeing if there's a grant out there for that, so that that main response bag that we've got for the main offices has an AED that's portable. And that would be a huge step for emergency preparedness. Cause when you look at some of our buildings, we've got one for 3 floors, and it's down here, if I get a cardiac event over here, 3rd floor, I'm not gonna be able to respond in a real good amount of time. Whereas if I got it in an office, they can go to any of the floors quickly, it'd be a better way to do that.
See chopping at the bit over here.
Yeah, whenever you guys are ready.
The only other question I had on the safety and security is, I think it was the WSSCA.
Yep.
Are we going to be doing a presentation there?
So, yeah, that was
Or-
one of the things David and I put in for a presentation that we're gonna be talking about, not just our updates, but also for what our progress is on putting all those things in place this year.
Yeah,
So the flip charts, the go bags, those are all now getting to be a pretty standardized practice, but it hasn't always been that way.
sure,
When I first started doing this with the flip charts, this was back in 2012, nobody had even really talked about them or heard about them, cause it was always those stinking binders.
sure,
And it drove me nuts, and when we started looking at more efficient ways to do it, something that's fast and easy to use,
Yeah.
that was one of the first things we came up with, like, this is a lot easier to work through.
well, I think it's a great topic to have and to present to other schools and,
Yeah.
you know,
How quickly
something
you
that
can
can catch on and
Yeah.
it's nice to be kind of the leader of the pack there, so well done.
It was interesting, cause then the last email they sent out, they're talking about go bags and flip charts.
There you go.
Thanks, Tom. So we'll see if they approve it, I have a feeling they will, but
Yeah,
it'll be a good time.
all right, special education, start of the year updates.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining
we
us tonight, Alex.
Yeah, of course, thanks for having me, I appreciate it. So I can just take you guys through some brief updates here. From the staffing perspective, we are fully staffed except for one special education teacher opening at the middle school. We had a person in place, I believe they resigned for some change in family reasons or something along those lines. So interviews are ongoing and we're hoping to have someone in that position soon. We're pretty popular, we had 34 students with disabilities move into the district since June of 2024. There's always some natural attrition with move-ins and move-outs. I believe we had around 26 students move out. So we're a little hard because of that, but you know, chance to service some students, which is always a good thing. And we were a little high with evaluations this summer being at 17, so we're still working through some of those.
Okay, and then looking at the staffing plan, you know, and again, ongoing interviews for another full-time. With it being a little bit higher, we're still confident that we're able
Yes.
to
Yep.
provide for the students everything that they need.
Yeah, a lot of the evaluations are more at the elementary level and we're pretty solid there.
Okay.
And the move-ins again, still a little higher, but within that course, that natural attrition for
Right.
move-ins and move-outs and things like that.
Okay,
So just some updates on what we're focusing on for the start of the year. Some of these are recent compliance updates, some of them are out of case law that occurred a few years ago that we're still seeing some ripple effects from. So these are a lot of the things that I'm talking about with teachers and staff members this year, whether it's in just normal course of the day or LEA and IEP meetings and things like that. Talking to staff about supplementary aids and services being considered before specially designed instruction to ensure least restrictive environment. So essentially that's just asking, how do we support access to the general ed curriculum before pulling a student out and perhaps creating a gap because we're taking a student out of their environment. Talking about how paraprofessionals cannot deliver specially designed instruction, so essentially just thinking of the most important instruction for students with disabilities, we want our most expertise, in that area, right? Like our people with the most training and the proper licensure. Which again, goes along with what the guidance from the Department of Public Instruction at this time. And then something we'll start talking about throughout the year, functional behavioral assessment is being done through special education evaluation. Just something we think about at the start of every evaluation is trying to be a little more holistic and thinking about, not just a disability area, but what the student's disability related needs could be, and making sure that we have a wide variety and battery of assessments and interventions in place to get those answers.
okay. And then I know that you are, newer to the role of director and you're kind of giving you a new view on things. Is there anything that in line with the training do you see any gaps anywhere, anything that needs to be looked at further?
Yeah, and I think this ties into some of the stuff we'll talk about a little later. I think we could always improve in the instruction we're giving students, right? And I think that's gonna be kind of one of my focuses this year and for the next few years is just providing professional development to staff to improve their actual instruction
Right,
related to student disability related needs and their IEP goals.
Traditionally, hiring staff in this area has been a challenge.
Yeah.
You're in the process of hiring and interviewing right now. How did the posting read? Did you see a nice amount of interest?
It was a small amount of interest. I think that might be contributed just the time of year it is.
Okay.
Cause I think people are pretty settled right now.
Yep.
When we posted positions, in like April, May and June, we got a pretty healthy amount of applicants,
Okay.
so.
I know one of our goals was, in recent years, we'd heard that, this area of expertise for this district had been a shining star.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks had a lot of pride associated with it. And through recent years, for whatever reason, it became a pain point and we did lose a lot of families. So it's positive to hear that families are moving back
Yeah.
and choosing us as a district of destination to be able to address those needs and get those services for their children. So that's great news.
Absolutely. So, one of the projects that I'm continuing to work on that's been worked on for the past couple of years is just our racial disproportionality indicators. So we work with CISA on this. These are just federal indicators from IDEA. We were identified, our students who are Black being over-identified with autism, as well as our students who are Hispanic being over-identified with a specific learning disability. We worked with CISA to do a student level data dive and we found as a team along with CISA that these were appropriate identifications per student. So we're moving the focus of this project to be a systems focus to benefit all students and then improve our overall exit outcomes in special education.
yes, that's good news, very good news.
Absolutely. So we did identify a couple of root cause factors that I then submit to DPI and they approve them and that's when we can start talking about the actual interventions. Those two factors that we found as a team were lack of engaging families as partners and then inconsistent specially designed instruction practices. And maybe inconsistent isn't the best word to use, but we could be better at instructing our students with, these specific disability related needs. So I also think these root causes align really well with our strategic plan in terms of helping close the gap between our students with disabilities and our students without disabilities, as well as engaging families along that process as well.
That's good.
Do we do any, I know we bring this in the committee work, but what I would love to be able to do is be able to showcase this. So in the extent that we have anything on our district webpage, once you kind of get through this process and showcase the progress that we've made, I would love to be able to highlight that.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about progress that we've made
Yes,
and where we wanna go.
absolutely, yeah.
Awesome.
And then I just wanna share this piece on family engagement, so I've been working with the Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative. Basically they're, I believe, a grant that focuses on just connecting educators and parents of students with disabilities. So they put on a lot of really good events. So kind of instead of reinventing the wheel, we are gonna try to host those events as a district. Families are obviously welcome to sign up on their own and view it from the comfort of their own home. But we are gonna work to secure a space to provide childcare, a designated question asker, and then host a question and answer session after the event. So the first workshop is going to be educating families on their role in the 5-step IEP process. So we focus on that because the annual IEP process is one of the main ways we as special education teachers engage families. And just making sure that they're coming to the table for those meetings very prepared and very knowledgeable, so then we're not just talking at them, but we're becoming true partners in developing that IEP together.
And when you say host a workshop and it goes out for folks, does that mean it's garnered just for Menominee Falls resident families, or is this something because it is affiliated with grants and whatnot, do areas also come from a workshop?
Statewide.
Oh, it is statewide, okay, perfect.
Yep. And then I think it's kind of nice too, because then, it's a third party, right? So I think it helps build some trust with families of seeing like this is, a third party, a statewide agency that's associated with the Department of Public Instruction to talk about this. This isn't, me telling you what I think should happen, right?
Perfect. Credibility.
Yes,
Not that
that's
you
a
don't
perfect
have
way
it,
to say it.
But it's a
Yeah.
matter of being able to get an outside perspective
Yeah,
and then you
absolutely.
can talk to specific questions arise from our families and residents
Absolutely,
of how you're connecting to whatever is being brought up in the workshop.
yes,
Okay, awesome.
yes.
I think families will appreciate that and hopefully we have a high turnout.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Where are you thinking about having the workshop?
We are targeting the community center. I'm working this week to get those rooms reserved. It just works out because then we can have like one room for the childcare
Yeah,
and like one room for the presentation,
Right.
essentially.
I wonder if the library would
Yeah, that's another
be
good thought.
willing to,
I like the idea of doing a community space as
That's
well,
right.
so I like
Yeah, and
that,
have the
yeah.
meeting rooms there
I
and
like
then I
that
have
too.
the one room for childcare adjacent,
Right.
so it's just
And
another
probably a lot of
option.
stuff the kids could do as
Correct.
well, yeah, that's a great point.
you might have to get,
Coffee for people.
you might have to get police involved for security for the kids.
Mm.
Wherever they are,
Mhm.
I don't know,
That's a good point.
Especially if it's a bigger crowd.
right,
That's perfect.
How is this being
and not
promoted?
just Falls people
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Falls.
I'm working with
Oh,
our
that's a good
parent, yeah. Well, I'm working with our parent liaisons this week on like getting it out, advertised, things like that. So
A
it's a
couple
big
things that
next
come to
step.
mind is A, use our social media, district social
Mhm.
media.
Yep.
Have the schools carried across, cause obviously there's students and families in each of our schools that will benefit. Let one of us know,
Sure.
and we can promote it at a school board meeting as well, once you're ready
Absolutely.
with prime time and details, dates,
Yeah.
et cetera, location. Cause we meet twice a month and we always get a couple minutes to promote activities or things that we've participated in, so
Yeah, that'd be great.
happy to do that on your behalf.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, is Mr. Munoz still doing his talking minutes with,
The cable access,
what's his name,
TV.
Mercur,
Mercury?
Yeah.
Cause then you can also
Yeah.
focus it for there as well,
Did
so.
you talk about it during your interview?
I did not, because I didn't have it planned yet, but I will loop back with David. Yeah.
Alright, super.
Cause I think we got one going on.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, that is a great way to get the word out, and I think, again, families will appreciate the chance to
Just like
interact
bringing the
and
information
Q&A and-
local and
Mhm.
It's pretty cool when you can actually sponsor and host a workshop that size in the whole state,
And who doesn't
all the
wanna
people that come
brag a
in.
little by bringing some people into
Yeah.
how great our district is. It's work.
So Ed, I know you're new to your position, do you see an immediate need that you need that isn't being offered to you or anything like that?
No, but I
Okay.
appreciate you asking the question. I don't
Right.
see any nine.
Yeah, furniture, TV, whatever.
No, the furniture's coming. No, but thank you, it's very nice of you to ask. Nothing
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but I'll certainly keep my eyes out.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay,
The new staff is acclimating and everything's going great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, new staff, I'm very happy with the hires that we got over the summer, I'm very excited about all of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we were able to get a lot of experience actually, which is always
sure.
a
And
good
yes.
thing, yeah.
So we should probably make the hiring of one more priority one and then go from there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where would that person go?
Middle school would be the
Okay.
special ed
Right.
teacher vacancy,
Okay.
yeah.
But they have someone there, I mean, they have multiple people there
Yes.
now, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
On them.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay,
well, thanks for coming in, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely, thank you guys for having me, I appreciate it.
yeah, good conversation, and
Absolutely.
I like the workshops, so
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited about that,
as soon as you get your location locked down, let us know.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you for being responsive to our request of how things are looking, so.
Yeah, anytime.
It's always nice to know when there's really, not a lot else that needs to be discussed, that things are being covered and taken care of one
Right.
step at a time.
Yeah. One step at a time indeed.
Yes.
From my standpoint, and I've worked with a lot of people, services directors and special ed directors, and it's on the top of the books right there, so.
Top notch.
And he puts up with me.
It's okay.
You're a
He
monster.
deals with me,
You're setting some
sat through open house, through the school fair, and he had to put up with me, and all the people of his background that I knew when he went to school.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah, I do have to say, I've heard good things as well, so.
Thank you,
Well done.
I appreciate it. We're very lucky to have the staff we do here, so it makes my job a lot easier when our buildings are as strong as they are, so.
Okay, moving on to future agenda items.
Yep, so there's a couple things on there, and one of them we've actually got this Thursday scheduled. And we, as you guys might know, we're currently Raptor School District for crisis management, emergency management, and then visitor management for the school district. We'll kind of go down this path, so the Appalachia High shooting in Georgia. One of the things that came out of that from a safety and security standpoint was their usage of something called Centigix, which was a company out of Georgia. And if you've ever seen, I've fallen, I can't get up, those old commercials with the people that have necklaces. So what Centigix did is they designed a key fob, just like an ID badge, that has an emergency response system built into it. So if you push it 4 times, you can automatically trigger a lockdown. You hit it 6 times, you notify emergency response, so the police get called when that happens. One of the things they credit for and again, this is not a good time of year to have this conversation, but it's never a good time, so we
Necessary.
just gotta have it. And one of the things that happened with the lower number of bodies that ended up with that active shooter incident was that someone had triggered that through that ID badge. And there were still people that died, but the amount of life lost because that was in place is hard to quantify, but it's gonna be a lot better because they had those. Centigix is getting a lot of footage right now for this and a lot of traction based upon that just alone happening, so they're extremely overwhelmed. I had spoke with, last Saturday, one of their sales reps from Georgia, and he gave me some information, and then they got another email from somebody else apologizing that they weren't able to set anything up right away, because obviously it's nationwide, it's worldwide, they're just getting overwhelmed. So through that, I'm talking with, what we had here with Raptor, they were able to set us up with kind of an example of this, it's a little different look. And my preference would be something like this, flat, it's an ID badge, it's not getting caught on things, it's not getting in the way. But Raptor's got a version of it that probably would fit in this as well. So Troy and I are gonna be meeting with Raptor on Thursday to talk through that process. See if we can get some quotes and also get some more informational resources on it too. I've had some issues back and forth this year with Raptor, and I've used them before for visitor management, we never used them for crisis response. I'm more familiar with Navigate Prepare and Navigate 360, which is another company, it's one of their competitors. That they actually stole one of their head software and design engineers from, so now he's working for Raptor, which hopefully will help them.
That's correct.
But we've been putting a lot of different things in place that we're educating Raptor on how to do things, which shouldn't be our job because we're paying them to do that, and I don't really like that.
Right.
And one of them would be our flip chart, so digital flip chart is a great example. I designed it, I put it in play, we've got it working, we put it on a Google document so that we could use it, now everyone has access to it, and it doesn't work for Android phones. That should not happen, it shouldn't be something we're dealing with, and they're still dealing with that problem right now. So they were notified of it early last week, when we got notified of it late the previous week, and we still haven't gotten resolution of that issue, which is odd to me. How it works on an iPhone and not an Android, I don't know. But at some point in time, if it works on Google, it should be working fine for your app, so they're having to work through that process as well. I love them for guest management and visitor management, I'm not a real fan of theirs for emergency response and crisis management right now. And as you know, if you don't have a good organizational structure and preface when you're doing the drills, it's kind of indicative of what's gonna happen in an emergency response situation. So we're gonna be working through that process with Raptor.
Of finding a different company?
That's a possibility.
Okay.
And I've already informed their salesperson of this because I'm not happy.
Yeah.
We're paying the amount of money we're paying, which isn't much for Raptor, which is part of the reason why I think we got it.
Pay for
But
it.
you get what you pay for.
Bingo.
And if we're getting garbage in, we're gonna get garbage out, and if we need to go to a different company, then that's what we do.
Mhm.
There is an appeal to being a single platform school district where you have one platform,
That
everyone's
was my
familiar
next
with it.
question.
And now you've got that commonality, also financially, it's fiscally responsible because generally you have a bulk discount purchase.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if it's not delivering what we need for emergencies, it's gone. And I don't have a lot of patience for it when it comes to that. Especially when we're spoon feeding them this information.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is gonna come up, and David and I were looking at it this morning, is our emergency response plan as a district. So that was one of the things that's coming for the policy board. It's not gonna be this Thursday, but it is gonna be coming up soon. I know that was part of the conversation for policy. When we start looking at our emergency response plan as a district, it has to be building by building and district wide. So one of the things I was familiar with through Navigate is they actually had a shell that they did that you could just basically, it's plug and play. You plug your information in, now you've got your emergency response plan. It's set, you meet the Department of Justice requirements, it meets the federal guidelines, and then boom, you guys approve it in January and it's done.
Mhm.
It's not what we're necessarily gonna use, but we've got it as part of our process of planning. So when I started bringing that up to Raptor about them having this as an option, they had no idea. And even their engineer that they stole it when meeting with us had no idea. So I did some more digging, did some more research, well, it turns out the state of Wisconsin, our WSSCA, was one of the people that coordinated this through the Department of Justice and Office of School Safety nationally. So I worked with those guys and now we've got that plan, so we're gonna be working together as a building administrative team and our building principals. We're gonna sit down, and it's not a pleasant process, because it's about 4 hours to go through 180 pages one by one, and you're plugging in all the information for your individual building level.
Sure.
But once it's done, it's done.
Right.
And you just make changes or
You just
updates
got
once you've got it, okay, that's good to know.
Exactly. So that initial investment, we're gonna front load all the time in there with everybody putting it in, but then at the end of it, it's gonna help us in the long run because we have an organized structured plan. And you guys will get it and you'll see there'll just be names changed as it needs to be, so.
Awesome.
It's a process. So that'll be, I'm looking to do that probably November, December-ish, cause I think you guys from the state requirement standpoint, it's either January or February as a board, you need to start getting beforehand.
Okay.
So I'll dig into that a little more with WSSCA too, so I can let you guys know.
So that previously to this, I think it was just the narrative from each building based on what they were doing.
The
and-
drills,
Right, and some were longer, different,
yeah,
or just kind of, it was personal narrative by each principal.
and kind of
So-
anecdotal,
Correct, so now it'll actually have some rigor
Yeah.
and some predictability across the building.
yep, and it'll be systematic. You know, if there's a water main burst, you know who you call, you can go to your book and you can take it out. If I'm a brand new principal or AP, I know that I can look in that book and it's gonna have that, or digitally, it'll be digital too.
Sure.
So it'd be nice. And, you know, it's nice to hear how the drills went, it's nice to hear how the lockdowns went, and some of those things, the tabletop exercises we're gonna be doing, but at the end, if we don't have it, something that's usable is not gonna get used. And there's a lot of knowledge in the brain of a principal, but at the same time, if it's not translated to the APs and the teachers, what's the good?
Right. They're allowed to be at different locations
Yeah.
and take vacation days,
You
et
betcha.
cetera, so. Good.
Any other possible items for the agenda? I know last time we had talked about dress code and code of conduct to see the uniformity there.
So actually,
Yeah,
when we had talked through that process, we looked at it's actually a parent handbook online that I'm going through and updating all the annual notices right now that are required to be issued. And that was one of the things that I had found in there.
okay,
The new AP at the elementary level, Dr. Brenner, has got experience in actually designing and aligning code of conduct. So
Okay.
she has like a step-by-step process, kind of what they do at Riverside and Franklin, yeah, so Justin and Scott, they've got kind of a process that they've put in place like that too, it's almost like a, I don't know what you call it, pie chart, but like a chart of just if you do this, if then.
Flow chart.
Flow chart, it's a flow chart.
sure,
So she's got experience in building one of those too, so it'd be nice that her and Dave are gonna be working together to make sure that there's some uniformity from the district standpoint.
exactly, yeah, I mean, I just think a student going from school to school, it's just nice to have that, you know, the expectation, it's the same, you know, across each grade level and then each building
You bet.
level.
Way back in the day when it used to be response to intervention, one of the things that we always talked about is, you know, we're assuming when a kid gets to middle school that they know how to behave, they know how to act. That's not always the case, you know, we assume based upon what our own experiences are as a kid growing up, that we know that this is what we aren't supposed to do in school or wherever we're at. Not every kid's got that opportunity, so we have to have that uniformity when they're coming up, so that they do get that exposure to what their behavior's supposed to be like. So I think it is a critical piece that we gotta look at. The code of conduct, so like the student handbooks, the behavioral handbooks at all schools, generally will come before board two in like February or March. So as we're starting to go through this process of Power School, how we do log entries, what we're gonna call a log entry, what's the point of a log entry, and then gathering that data, that's where I'm thinking we're gonna put some of that behavioral code of conduct into play too.
Sure,
And that way they can have enough time to talk through what the log entry is and what a behavioral infraction, what would be really called.
right,
And what that's
exactly,
gonna be for their handbooks when they plug them out next winter.
yeah, I like it,
But for this year,
But for this year, I think it's just a matter of gathering what everyone's doing that's working at their schools. The high school's got a pretty set, like, what their code of conduct expectations are.
for dress code, I think it's there, it just needs to be enforced,
That's part of it too.
or are we enforcing it, is the question.
Well, when I was over there the other day, it was.
Okay,
There's a benefit, and this isn't to be, please don't take this as sexist or anything else, but there is a benefit to having mixed gender principals in a building when that topic comes up. The benefit I had is having 4 daughters, I had no problem having that conversation with female students.
Yeah.
But I do know at certain buildings, people are very uncomfortable about that.
Sure.
But, and from my standpoint, it's like, dress where you're supposed to dress, you're at school, you're not at the beach, you're not somewhere, you're not going clubbing,
right, dress
Your
code
age
is
should
dress
be
code,
anyways, you
and it's
dress
just black and white right there.
you got it. And if you don't like it, I got plenty of clothes in the closet, you can choose from sweats or what other sweats, I got more sweats
Lost
than
in
no
talent,
sweats.
let's visit.
In our clothes closet, we had a lot of things that we'd have for donations, you know, and the students didn't have clothes. You go pick out an outfit that's more school appropriate. I know I've got a lot of my daughter's clothes in those closets, so I know they're school appropriate.
How, do you have any insight on how the flip-flop policy has been going for Leah?
Haven't heard anything.
Alright, well, that's good news. No slip strips.
Not to say that, we should probably wear flip flops, right?
Oh my, no, that was an invitation, be naughty.
Well, I was just testing,
The only thing I would throw out there is, I know we met with, Mr. D'Amato very quickly after he got hired, and I know there are lots of things he wanted to get off the ground. Fixing the website, working on, getting into the strength and training classes, like 2 or 3 times a week with students, introducing the Phoenix Way, like he just had a lot that was getting off the ground. So maybe in another meeting or two, having a revisit from him to just say, a status update on all those moving parts
Well,
and pieces.
he planned, yeah, excuse me, but he planned on coming for a 60-day.
Yep.
His 60, his plan, his 30, 60, 90 or whatever it was.
And
He
it's, I think
planned
we're
on-
gonna be looking, so 30 after last, cause he came last month, right? No, it was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So really, we're gonna be coming up on that 60 probably in October. I think
So
that's,
next meeting,
yeah, I think that'd be a good one to put on the next agenda.
Yeah.
I can tell you from a social media and a webpage standpoint, he's extremely frustrated, as am I, because we're kind of in a legal hole for what we're trying to accomplish, but that's something that's not for here to discuss, but we are working on getting some of those social media aspects and communication worked out, so
okay,
it's been a challenge. And technology as a whole has been a challenge, because somebody who's got communication on their job title is having to learn 7 different programs and how to hack into those programs.
just a
And he's
little.
not a hacker.
Are we talking third person?
Yeah, we might be. I'm gonna call my daughter in cybersecurity to try to figure out how to get into some of this.
Well, and our whole goal is easy to administer, easy to get messaging out. We like to leverage technology in this district and part of it's a matter of, oh, I got this fix over here, what can I throw at it? But then I think that gets us back to why communication is on the strategic plan is we need to be able to find solutions that work at all levels for all families to cover a multitude of.
The calendar is big,
And at the
athletics
same,
or
and
events.
at the same time, overloading,
Yeah.
like you said, overload of information, like when we're sending out the attendance updates.
Yep.
You know, being kind of mindful how much we're sending from the district level, when really the important stuff's come from the schools or athletics
Mhm.
or extracurriculars where they're sending that stuff out. We don't need to be talking about everything we're doing when everybody else is doing it. Like Menard's ad, that you get 7 times a day, delete.
Can you just give an update on how the first couple of days of school is going with the cell phones?
You know, as much as I've seen in the media about other schools and other school districts, I haven't heard anything by
Yeah.
us.
So I had a quick conversation with Dan Gebauer at the open house for the high school, and he said it's going great.
Yeah,
He said 99%, and then you're always gonna have that 1% that give you problems or whatever, but you can't do anything about that, so.
I just say props to them because they hit it really hard repeatedly at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
And included what the repercussions would be for
Right.
choosing it, and it sounded from my children pretty intense that no
Yeah.
one wanted to be in the 1%.
Right.
So,
Well, my
Consistency, yeah.
yeah, my thing was, the teachers are liking it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the most
Supportive,
important thing,
yeah.
because as long as the teachers are behind it, we're behind it, and
Yep.
learning can happen faster and better and all that.
and I think a lot of the media was pushing this thing as like, this could be this big, huge, argument
Yeah.
causing thing, but
Right.
I haven't seen it. When I was over there, this would have been 2 weeks ago, they were doing study hall, and it was it was the first week of school.
Mhm.
And all the kids were in line, they're all turning on their cell phones, they're signing up, signing in, everybody was lined up, and nobody was saying anything.
Sure.
And I was just like amazed, cause when they first had brought this up, we were at our tabletop exercise with Frater. And I remember Christina asking me specifically about that, I'm like, I wouldn't recommend it, they started a riot down in Janesville when this happened, and I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
And people were flying off the handle, kids were walking out of school.
Yeah.
And they, like I said, they did a great job from a consistency standpoint, so my hat's off to them, cause that's not an easy task to
Right.
accomplish.
So you were happy to be proven wrong
You
in
betcha,
that one?
100%.
so here's
Absolutely.
what I've heard is they eased the use of it. My 2 children, I'm sure other students have this, want music to be able to listen to while they study and study all. So the offer to be able to put Spotify on the Chromebooks help offset some of the adoption pain. However, I've also heard that Spotify has audiobooks and other things that are mature content. And so you might wanna put it on a little, to follow up with Troy to make sure that
This is.
Spotify is only
Yeah.
set for audio to come through, music, audio.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. Any other discussion on the cell phone policy?
No, I just think it would be nice to be able to get
I,
updates from,
Is the same policy in place, not at the middle school though?
I think it's district wide.
Because,
Cause I did hear something from an elementary parent before school started, they were concerned about their kid being able to contact them on an emergency, like watch device.
okay,
So I know that was being implemented at the elementary level too.
Okay, well, I do know that the kids with type 1 diabetes are allowed to have their
Yeah,
phone
it's tied.
because it's tied into the app for
Yeah.
their, yeah. So they have to have it. Do they have anything like that for special needs?
Not as much, we have some instances where kids have like access to music or something like a
Sure.
coping strategy, but the Chromebook again kind of offsets that, so there's nothing that comes to the top of my mind. We have students with like audiobooks, but again, the Chromebook
Right.
makes that work, so most of those things would probably come through a 504 plan, like, you know, diabetes and things like that,
Mhm.
and that hasn't been an issue as
Okay.
of so far anyways.
I just thought like maybe if a kid has epilepsy or something like that, where they need to,
Like the signal if they're about to go into a seizure.
or contact a parent if he does have a seizure or something.
But that could be built into an accommodation plan for 504.
Or just a health plan too,
Yeah, health plan
right?
too.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'd be some sort of, there's definitely gotta be give.
Yeah.
Gotta be some sort of allowances there for accommodations for
Right.
both sides.
Well, that's great, I'm glad to hear the students are cooperating and, you know,
Are enforcing,
teachers are enforcing,
building
students
their
are,
supporting.
I mean, that's
That's
fantastic.
good stuff.
Parents aren't rioting like they are in
Flipping cars
other
over.
districts.
Are we collecting data at all on incidences that are requiring like the 1%
The
or,
phones,
yeah,
it's part of our log entries, yeah.
okay, cause it'd just be nice to some sort of summary midpoint of the year to get a pulse on how it's going.
Yeah, and especially if it's gonna be listed as a cell device versus like we had talked about those minors, majors, it make more sense. So that might be something I'll take a look and make sure that we actually have the classifications in there for it. Like electronic device violation or,
There we
Yeah,
go.
right.
I was kinda surprised that it didn't bring back more iPods. People were grabbing their dad's iPods.
Nobody knows what that is.
They're all in good will.
My husband hears one, he was just advised that they're sunsetting it, and they're not doing updates iOS. Well, he had a work administered phone and he didn't wanna put his music on his work phone for whatever reason, and now he finally has a personal cell phone, I was like,
When they start cranking out those CD players again, I'm gonna be all set.
harder
So
to
we're gonna
put
play
data
my
on
CDs?
those, that's not gonna happen.
Another thing that I would like to see some information on, and I know that we touched on this briefly before, again, as we kind of get the student services committee meetings on some sort of a schedule, is the school counselor update. We wanted to look at, you know, the measurables, curriculums, proficiencies, what's working, do they have the support they need? And just that overall picture of the school counselor department and what that looks like. So if we can do that in October, I'm not sure how much time they would need to
Especially if we're doing Johns too.
prepare.
Yeah.
But if they could have something for the October agenda, that'd be ideal. And then if, you know, again, I'm not sure what's all involved there. Maybe November, but October would be,
Ideal.
Yeah, would be
Both John
ideal.
and that new athletic director update for 60-day and that,
yeah.
yeah, that would,
Do they need to do that here, or is that with a full board?
I've seen them at the full boards,
Okay.
but it's not to say we couldn't.
Well, and again, we could, you know, talk to David and Nina about that going on the full board agenda. I just think seeing something sooner than later is a good idea, because I was looking at the numbers online to try and figure it out in my head, like how many are at each school,
Yeah.
and just to see it all together would be, I think,
Nice picture.
yeah, a nice
Yeah.
picture for everyone.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
we could talk it through. I wouldn't
board.
think they'd mind one way or the other if they wanted to do a full board or
I
here.
traditionally how it works is maybe they come here, present you the information, make sure, hey, it resonates with what you're looking for full board.
Sure.
And if it resonates with the three of us, then they can bring it through to full board. I don't think there's any motions or activities we're taking off of it, but I'd rather it strike the chord with what it is you're looking for in terms of summary, because I know we had, was it the psychologists come as well, and they
Yes.
kind of did a summary, so to be able to have it be in tandem with kind of overall impact, how they break up students, what the areas of focus are, the experience for each of the, you know, counselors, the history on them, like,
Right,
just
there's
kind
a
of
lot
a-
of information there,
correct.
yeah.
We can talk about it.
So, yeah, why don't we plan on that for October if they're available to come
Yep.
to committee level and then,
And do we wanna
Board.
focus on any level, or are you thinking all levels?
I would like to see a full picture.
Okay.
I think that,
Well, I don't know that we need all of them here, it's just like if they speak one or two spokesmen who want
right,
to come and then represent the group.
exactly, just an overall picture
Sure.
of what's going on there. And then,
What's working, what some areas of TLC might be.
right, exactly, and again, do they have needs, that we should be looking into? And then finally, I'm gonna throw one more thing at you, Dan. I just think we're looking maybe at the next couple meetings here, but I wanna go from my list to yours. I know Lisa Kiefer does a lot of work with school to work, increased dual credit options, additional funding on that. I just wanna kind of touch base to see what options are for our students and make sure that we're continuing to move forward in those areas as education just becomes more and more expensive. I think it's nice to have a lot of options for the students available to, and we have the ability now with a lot of the UW schools, it'd just be nice to.
And we had a faux pas this year in the education. They call them like business track academy.
Academies.
There was a class that got dropped late that was a dual.
Okay,
And so then they're thinking of, can they evaluate?
Scrambling a little
So then
bit.
you've got like juniors and seniors that are trying to figure out registration by January and don't know if that class will come back or what to do. So yeah, I would love the idea to get kind of an overview of and help put some programming together. I think we throw out terms like AP and honors classes and without people really understanding how to navigate this channel to be able to do some significant cost savings.
absolutely.
Especially when you're talking, I think, last numbers I saw for us from a dual credit standpoint was $240,000.
Yeah,
Came out of here.
There was one family that a young lady, she's on the verge to graduate from Baylor, she graduated from Menominee Falls 2 years ago, accumulated 60 credits.
Yeah.
And so she entered Baylor as a junior status, even though she was a freshman, and she will graduate international business in 2.5 years. That's significant cost
It
savings.
is.
Now, she
It
took
is.
a ridiculous amount of AP
Right.
classes and she's a special breed, but I don't know that families even correlate the fact that if you get an AP class or a dual credit class, so, and what does that catalog look like so that we can promote it and make it available? Maybe it exists, but I don't know about it as a high school parent, so.
Or when you even talk about Start College Now programs and ECCP, so early college credit programs, and how some of those things tie in, where they can do a lot of those virtually through the UW systems.
And even summer
So-
school, if kids are looking for
Yeah.
something to offset boredom, so I just think it would be a lovely program to bring in here and get up to speed and then talk about how we promote it.
Or the
You wanna
cost, because the summer,
like shoot
the
for
summer,
November for that?
Yeah, when you start looking at the costs, like for ECCP and, it used to be called course options, way back then it was ed options, now it's the Start College Now and early college credit program. How do you guys get that information for approval? Do you? Cause normally you have to approve that as a board, you sign off on the sheets and basically.
It might come through the curriculum committee, I'm not on that one.
It does, yes,
Okay.
it's curriculum.
Cause that would be another thing that we could tie into how, and I'm not trying to put stuff on their plate, but that's where we had to do all of our approval to pay for it.
Yep.
It was tied into a lot of that, we'd do right before board, we do the presentation of what classes the kids signed up for.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if Dan would do that or one of the APs at the high school, but that's part of it.
Yeah, and I think that, again, getting the information out there to families, to students, and,
But it's out there.
again, we're a destination district, right? And that'll help us to bring other people, other families involved that say, hey, they're really strong in this program, I wanna be a part of that.
Yeah.
And, I think it'll be a win-win for us and
Yeah.
the students.
For sure. You're thinking November?
Yeah,
Cause that'll give me a chance to get a hold of Lisa too and talk through like what her parts, but it might also be some other people tied
I was
into
gonna
that.
say I'd like November, but here's what I would love is to be able to come out of our discussion and take away some like promotional material because you get through the holidays and registration is right around the corner, so that we're
I like it,
putting some sort of program together
Yeah.
to communicate, especially to incoming eighth graders. Families that have eighth graders becoming freshmen registering, so they understand and know.
I like it.
Program of study, so we did shift everything earlier so that we could actually meet that requirement for sectioning that goes for approval through you guys. So we're looking at December program of studies being done, and then January starting that course selection process when people start that semester.
Oh.
So that is gonna be something that's moving up, because then it ties into the timeline with section approval, ties into budgeting, ties into everything for
Staffing.
summer, staffing, you got it.
Yeah,
So having that to be more of a normalized timeline instead of having to rush, and then, oh, we're too late, oh, you're not gonna change it.
exactly,
We're not gonna do that.
right,
So that is one of the things that we just put in place when Amy, Lee and I were talking through it, David, that was one of the things we had to do, is we're moving up. Dan and Terry are all on board with it, they've got their schedules all adjusted so that we can get that athletic too, so.
As someone who just wrote a check for first semester of college, the fee is much less when you do have AP credits and
Yeah.
everything else, so I was happy about that.
And when you look at all the, like, tech schools right now, what they're actually transferring over to university
Yeah.
level, it's almost every credit that's dual credit, is in
Sure.
some way, shape, or form, you
Yeah.
can transfer to a four-year university, so.
Right.
I mean, it worked out really, it works great for us, it's not real popular with the tech schools, but
Yeah.
it's great for
But there's a
us.
lot of kids that, I was one who started out at tech school for 2 years because I didn't have the money to go to the four-year university, and then you morph over to the four-year university and you took that one for one and it worked out perfectly, a smaller class size, better GPA.
My first degree was through MATC in Madison, then it was all online when I was in the Army. So it was all, I mean, it was packet work back then, they had to call in, was, oh, It still, that was my first degree. It was from their associate degree.
Okay, anything else for the future agenda items? I think we really hit that one. We have a list, which is good,
There's probably one more I wanna toss on there, but I think it could be split between this committee and probably curriculum, is I know it came out of being able to drive revenue per pupil, and it was being able to offer an online program for home study. Is that something you'd envision coming through this as part of student services, and, or is it curriculum based, or both?
Both.
Okay,
And part of the reason why I would come through this committee would be all TED.
Yep.
And for credit recoveries, but when you look at the programs that are out there, and I talked with Amy about this a couple weeks ago, is being involved in the negotiation process of what we wanna use for Ed Mental.
Okay.
And if we can get a different catalog available to us, we can use it for at-risk, all TED, and then also for kids to get basically just online learning, so we're not having to pay other districts outside like Wisconsin Retro Schools.
Yep.
So, yeah, those are definitely tied in. I
okay,
will say that when we first went to credit recovery based in Guido, our alt-ed programming, was what led to us opening doors saying, hey, they're offering this, we didn't offer this AP course, but now they've got it in the catalog, we
right,
can do this.
Right.
And then they at least get the prepreparation, they take the test, oh, now they're saving money that way too, and it
Correct.
saves us money as a district.
Yep.
So it's about negotiating with Ed Mental
okay,
and negotiating what their contracts, cause right now we're per license fee.
okay,
And we ran into this as part of an alt-ed structure, we'll get into details because it pertains to one middle school student, but when you look at what we have available for alt-ed at that level, there's nothing. And that's whether it's a kid that's got issues disciplinary wise, or it's a kid that needs help with, they're struggling in school in
their needs
general.
are different.
And they're gonna go into a
Mhm.
virtual school anyways, why should we pay another district to do that?
Right.
So I think there's a lot of conversation, it took us about 2, maybe 3 years to get that all into play.
Okay,
And it started with a credit recovery program for summer school. And I know in South Milwaukee, we had 4 different alternative options available, one of them was they were shipped basically down the road for a different program. And then we started expanding upon our virtual program within the district, we utilized an educational assistant that could do supervision, and we also had all that certified teachers that could provide that actual license so that they could qualify them for credit.
awesome.
So it's a really neat setup once we get going. There's been a lot of conversation about it, David and I have mostly spoken about it through here from Alt-Ed.
Okay.
Because we really don't have an alternative education program that meets the needs of all the kids like that, so.
But then when we run into like a dual
And Guido is one of the options.
Yeah.
GED programming.
But then I think there's, hey, well, you're handling a certain spectrum of students that can benefit from it. There's another spectrum of students that hey, this class got dropped, it's not available, it doesn't have dual enroll, do I have an alternate way of getting it? It would be lovely to be able to look at and say, hey, go take this as an online class and we put you in a study hall and you sit over there and learn online, so.
100%.
Yeah.
And when you start talking ECP and ECCP and the Start College Now program, the Early College Credit Program, those are mandated by state guidelines for timeframes.
Yep.
So October 1st is one of the deadlines, I think March 1st is the other deadline for summer and spring semesters. Those things, once those deadlines are there, you can't sign up anymore. You know, we would always keep a little bit of money in the coffers for kids that might need to change a course or one's not available for
Sure.
alternate. But having those other classes available was really beneficial, cause again, like I said, the last minute, something drops and this isn't costing us anything extra, cause we've already negotiated that in our contract. So
Yep.
let's give it a shot, or a kid wants to just try it.
Yep.
You know, I don't wanna sign up for an AP course where I know it's gonna kill a semester, and if I don't like it, I'm gonna be stuck.
Right.
I might try it, and what's it gonna hurt, and the kid might like it.
Well, and I had heard there were two scenarios at the high school this fall, was one, AP Science, there was the green energy class.
Oh, yeah, environmental,
Yeah, that you
Yep.
had, and I felt like, okay, well, whatever you're gonna teach, that seems like something that most districts would probably be carrying and it may be available online. So again, students that were planning to take the class, AP credit, could find an alternate vehicle to get it in.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully we find a teacher that has that skill set comfortable, but I know we're already talking science, so
yeah,
that's
they're
a
talking
big,
AP.
now you're talking AP, that you get finite and finite, but being able to find another solution to that helps a child be able to say, hey, I'm willing to spend the money because I'm gonna save college credits in the future, so.
There's always options, you know, and we looked at independent study, where we'd have a teacher that was willing to volunteer their time to do some of those things where they pick up. And we're not gonna offer an AP, let's say in this case was organic chemistry. We're not gonna offer an AP organic chemistry, but if I've got a chemistry teacher that wants to help a kid do an independent study, and I can pull it off of an online coursework, let's try it. And the teacher's
I
willing to
just
do
think it
it.
makes us a much more appealing for families that are looking to come here to know that they have the flexibility, we have unique opportunities to fulfill students' needs with curriculum.
Absolutely.
It isn't just what's taught by a classroom, so.
Mhm.
Alright, super, let's add that,
100%.
I think that's what I can come up with.
I just reminded deer hunting season's coming up, so I don't know how much more we wanna add on here.
I mean, it
feel like
opened
we're-
up 2 days ago.
I know, a little warm.
Okay, so I think it worked well last time to adjourn the meeting and then set the next dates.
Yep.
So I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion has passed. Meeting is adjourned at 7:08 PM. And then we can take a look at calendars.